In today's fast-paced world, where knowledge, technology, and money are seen as the key to success, there is one silent force that actually defines how far someone will go in life. That force is the ability to work with people, to build trust, and to influence others positively. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you cannot win people to your side, your success will always remain limited. This is where Dale Carnegie's legendary book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, comes in. First published in 1936, this book became an instant classic, and even today, nearly a century later, it remains one of the most powerful guides for human relationships, leadership, and personal success. What makes it timeless is not fancy theories, but simple truths about human nature that never change. Everyone, no matter where they are from, has the same deep need to feel valued, respected, and important. Carnegie's principles are built on this eternal truth, and when applied, they transform the way you deal with people. This book has influenced presidents, business leaders, and millions of ordinary people across the globe. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men alive, still keeps his Dale Carnegie diploma framed on his office wall because he considers it more important than his business school degree. That's the level of impact this book can have. But this is not just about learning rules. It is about changing the way you see people. Carnegie's wisdom is not about manipulation. It is about genuine connection, about making people feel important in a sincere way, and about creating relationships that naturally draw others toward you. In this script, we will journey through the lessons of this book as if you are walking alongside Dale Carnegie himself. Each principle will be explained through real human stories, examples, and applications that you can use in your own life immediately. By the end, you will not only understand how to win friends and influence people, you will feel ready to live it every single day. So, let's begin this powerful journey. The book opens with Part 1, the fundamental techniques in handling people. These are the basic building blocks of influence, the foundation on which everything else is built. They may sound simple, but when you live them, they completely change how people respond to you. The first principle is this: don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Now, this sounds almost impossible, right? We criticize without even realizing it. Our colleagues, our family, our leaders, strangers on the street. But Carnegie explains why criticism never works. When you criticize someone, you attack their pride. Human beings, no matter how wrong they are, will rarely admit they are wrong. Instead, they justify themselves, defend their actions, and resent you for pointing out their flaws. Even criminals think of themselves as victims. Dale Carnegie tells the story of Two Gun Crowley, a gangster in the 1930s who killed without mercy. When he was finally captured after a brutal gunfight, the police found a note he had written. It read, "Under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one that would do nobody any harm." Think about that. A cold-blooded killer who had murdered officers still saw himself as misunderstood as a kind man. He did not see himself as wrong. This is human nature. No matter how terrible someone's actions, they rarely condemn themselves. So what good does our criticism do? None. Instead, it provokes resentment. Imagine your own life. When was the last time someone criticized you harshly? Did it make you want to improve, or did it make you feel defensive, even angry? Criticism does not inspire change. It only makes people resentful. That's why Carnegie says instead of condemning people, try to understand them. Ask yourself why they behave the way they do. Understanding breeds compassion, and compassion opens the door to influence. Consider a workplace example. A manager who constantly criticizes employees creates an environment of fear. People may comply out of fear, but their loyalty, creativity, and enthusiasm die. On the other hand, a manager who shows patience, guides with encouragement, and avoids harsh condemnation earns loyalty. The employees perform not because they fear him, but because they respect him. The lesson is clear. Stop criticizing, condemning, and complaining. It doesn't mean you ignore mistakes. It means you approach them with empathy and guidance instead of judgment. The second principle is, give honest and sincere appreciation. If criticism destroys relationships, appreciation builds them. Human beings live for recognition. A person can work for money, but they will give their heart for appreciation. A genuine compliment has the power to transform someone's entire outlook. But there's an important difference between flattery and appreciation. Flattery is fake, insincere, and selfish. It's when you praise someone only to get something in return. People can sense it immediately, and it often backfires. Appreciation, on the other hand, is real. It comes from the heart, and it highlights the value you truly see in another person. Carnegie gives us the example of Charles Schwab, one of the greatest leaders in the steel industry. Schwab believed that the way to bring out the best in people was through appreciation and encouragement. He once said, "I have yet to find the man, however exalted his station, who did not do better work and put forth greater effort under a spirit of approval than he would ever do under a spirit of criticism." Schwab walked around his factories not looking for faults but looking for things to praise. He made people feel proud of their work, and in return they gave him their loyalty and dedication. Think about this in your own life. When was the last time someone sincerely appreciated you? Didn't it light a fire inside you? Make you want to do even more? That's the power of appreciation, and when you give it sincerely, you stand out because the world is full of criticism and indifference. Carnegie's advice is simple. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. In other words, be generous with your appreciation, as long as it is sincere. Instead of catching people doing things wrong, catch them doing things right. And then recognize it. When your colleague shares a brilliant idea, don't just say good. Say, "That was an excellent suggestion, and I admire the clarity with which you explained it." When your child shows you a drawing, don't just say nice. Say, "I love the way you used colors so creatively here. It shows how imaginative you are." These words may seem small, but they plant seeds of confidence that grow for years. Remember, people don't live on bread alone. They live on recognition and appreciation. The third principle is arouse in the other person an eager want. Carnegie explains that the only way to influence people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. This is perhaps the most important law of human interaction. Everyone, whether they admit it or not, is tuned into the same mental radio station. WeFM, which stands for What's in it for me. If you want someone to do something, don't talk about what you want. Talk about what they want. Then show them how your idea, your suggestion, your plan helps them get what they desire. For example, if you are trying to sell a product, don't focus on how great your company is or how advanced the product features are. People don't care about that. They care about how the product solves their problems, saves their time, or makes their life better. Talk in terms of their desires and you will have their attention. Carnegie shares a simple but powerful example. A child does not want to brush his teeth. If you say, "Do it because I told you so," he resists. But if you say, "Brushing your teeth will make them strong and keep them healthy so you can eat all your favorite foods," suddenly the child becomes interested. The same principle works with adults. If you are a leader asking your team to put in extra hours, don't say, "I need this done because it's important to me." That creates resistance. Instead say, "Completing this project on time will showcase your skills to the senior management and open new opportunities for you." Now they have a reason that excites them. In personal relationships too, this principle works wonders. If you want your spouse to join you in a new hobby, don't just talk about your excitement. Talk about how it will bring both of you closer, how it will give them joy or help them relax. In every case, frame your desire in terms of their want. The truth is, people are not motivated by your needs. They are motivated by their own. If you align your requests with their desires, they will not only agree, they will do it eagerly. Carnegie sums it up beautifully. First, arouse in the other person an eager want. When you live by this principle, you stop being a pusher and become a leader. You stop forcing people and start inspiring them. With these three principles, don't criticize, give sincere appreciation, and arouse an eager want, you have the foundation of influence. They may look simple, but their power is profound. If you master just these, your personal and professional relationships will never be the same again. We now move to part 2 of the book, which is titled 6 Ways to Make People Like You. Think about it for a moment. Everyone wants to be liked. Everyone wants to feel that others enjoy their company and value their presence. Yet many people struggle with this because they focus more on themselves than on others. Carnegie teaches that if you truly want people to like you, you must first develop a genuine interest in them. These principles are not tricks or techniques to fake your way into popularity. They are ways to genuinely connect with human beings at the deepest level. Let us walk through each principle one by one. The first principle is, become genuinely interested in other people. Carnegie writes that you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming genuinely interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get others interested in you. This is a remarkable truth. Most people are so focused on their own lives, their own stories, their own problems, that when someone takes a real interest in them, it feels refreshing, almost magical. Genuine interest cannot be faked. People sense when you are just pretending to care. But when you truly listen, ask questions, and show curiosity about their lives, people feel valued. Think about a time when someone sincerely asked you about your passions, your goals, or your family, and then really listened. Didn't you instantly feel warmer toward them? That's the power of genuine interest. A great example comes from Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States. Roosevelt was known for his incredible ability to connect with people from all walks of life. His secret? He always showed interest in others. Before meeting anyone, he would spend hours reading about their interests so he could talk about what mattered to them. Whether it was a hunter, a diplomat, or a farmer, Roosevelt knew something about their passions, and he used that knowledge to connect. As a result, people loved him. To practice this principle in your own life, start by shifting your mindset. Instead of going into conversations thinking, "What can I get out of this?" Go in thinking, "What can I learn about this person?" Ask about their hobbies, their dreams, their work. Be curious. People will naturally feel drawn to you because you satisfy their need to be recognized. The second principle is smile. It may sound overly simple, but a genuine smile has extraordinary power. A smile communicates warmth, openness, and friendliness without a single word. Carnegie tells us that actions speak louder than words, and a smile says, "I like you, you make me happy. I am glad to see you." Think about this. Dogs don't have fancy education or wealth, yet they are among the most loved animals in the world. Why? Because when you see a dog wagging its tail and showing excitement to see you, you feel loved. A smile works the same way. It tells people you welcome them. Psychologists have proven that smiling not only makes you more attractive to others, but also improves your own mood. It triggers positive emotions in your brain. But here's the key. It must be genuine. A fake smile is worse than none at all. Carnegie advises us to cultivate a habit of smiling sincerely by actually thinking happy thoughts, by genuinely feeling good about others. If you practice this, people will find you far more approachable. The third principle is remember that a person's name is, to that person, the sweetest sound in any language. Think about how you feel when someone remembers your name, especially in a crowded room. You feel seen, recognized, important. Conversely, when someone forgets your name or calls you by the wrong name, it feels like they don't care. Carnegie emphasizes that using a person's name is one of the simplest, yet most powerful ways to make them feel valued. He shares stories of successful leaders who made it a point to remember names. For example, Andrew Carnegie, the great industrialist, was not related to Dale but shared his belief in the power of names. He was known to remember the names of hundreds of employees, and he used them frequently. That made workers feel that they mattered personally, not just as cogs in a machine. If you want to apply this principle, make an effort to learn and use people's names. Say it when you greet them, say it when you thank them, say it when you compliment them. It shows respect and attention. The fourth principle is, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Carnegie explains that the easiest way to become a good conversationalist is to be a good listener. Most people are not really listening in conversations. They are waiting for their turn to speak. But when you give someone your full attention, nod, ask follow-up questions, and show genuine curiosity, they feel important and appreciated, and they will like you for it. A wonderful example comes from a story Carnegie shares about a dinner party he attended. He spent the evening asking questions and listening to a botanist talk passionately about plants. Carnegie hardly said anything, yet at the end of the evening, the botanist told the host, "Carnegie is such an interesting conversationalist." Why? People love to talk about themselves, and when you let them, they associate you with positive feelings. If you want people to like you, stop trying to impress them with your knowledge. Instead, show interest in theirs. The fifth principle is talk in terms of the other person's interests. This builds on the previous ideas. If you want people to enjoy your company, talk about what excites them, not what excites you, not what you want to discuss, but what matters to them. Theodore Roosevelt practiced this brilliantly. If he knew a guest loved hunting, he talked about hunting. If another loved books, he discussed literature. By entering into other people's world of interests, he made them feel valued. You can do the same. When you meet someone new, instead of forcing the conversation toward your own favorite topics, ask what they enjoy, Then engage them on that. This makes the conversation enjoyable for them and they'll naturally like you. Finally, the sixth principle is, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. This may be the most crucial of them all. Every human being craves importance. It is the deepest urge of human nature. If you make people feel genuinely important, they will warm to you instantly. Carnegie warns, however, that it must be sincere. Empty flattery is manipulative and offensive, but sincere recognition of someone's worth is powerful. Consider this. The great philosopher William James once said, "The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. If you meet this need for others, you win their hearts." A simple example is remembering to thank people for even small acts of kindness, or acknowledging their efforts openly, or telling someone how much you value their contribution. Small gestures of respect go a long way. In summary, these 6 principles, genuine interest in others, smiling, remembering names, being a good listener, talking in terms of others' interests, and making others feel important, form the backbone of making people like you. They are simple, yet deeply transformative. When practiced sincerely, they make you magnetic, the kind of person others want to be around. We now arrive at the third section of Dale Carnegie's timeless masterpiece titled, How to Win People to Your Way of Thinking. This section is all about persuasion, influence, and the art of guiding others to see things from your perspective without creating conflict or resistance. Too often, people believe that winning arguments means raising their voice, proving others wrong, or defeating them with logic. But Carnegie explains that in human relationships, winning an argument is often the same as losing. Even if you prove someone wrong, you may leave them hurt, humiliated, and resentful. And resentment lasts longer than victory. Real influence is not about overpowering others, but about leading them willingly toward agreement. The first principle in this section is, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Carnegie shares countless examples to illustrate this truth. Imagine you are debating with a colleague and you finally corner them with facts, leaving them no room to escape. Outwardly, you may feel you've won, but inside that person feels defeated and insulted. Do they suddenly like you more? Do they feel eager to work with you? Not at all. They leave the interaction with resentment. Carnegie tells us that 9 times out of 10, arguments end with each person more convinced than ever that they are right. Logic rarely changes people's minds. Emotions do. That is why he suggests the best way to win an argument is not to argue at all. If you sense an argument coming, pause, seek common ground, ask questions, let the other person express themselves fully. Often when people feel heard, the tension dissolves. Avoiding arguments does not mean agreeing with everything blindly. It means approaching disagreements with diplomacy, respect, and tact. The second principle is show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, "You're wrong." These 2 words, "you're wrong," can be devastating. They strike at the core of a person's identity. Even if you are correct, saying "you're wrong" puts the other person on the defensive. Carnegie tells us to avoid direct contradiction. Instead, if you believe someone is mistaken, approach it gently. Say things like, "I may be wrong, let's examine the facts together." Or, "I see it differently. What do you think about this angle?" By softening your approach, you leave room for the other person to save face. They don't feel attacked and they remain open to your perspective. Remember, respect for someone's opinion does not mean you agree with them. It means you acknowledge their right to hold it. The third principle is, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. This is a difficult one for many, because pride often stands in the way, but Carnegie assures us that admitting mistakes is not weakness, it is strength. When you own up quickly, you disarm criticism and build trust. People respect honesty and humility. For example, if you make an error at work and your boss discovers it, don't wait for them to point it out. Go to them immediately and say, "I made a mistake, here's what happened, and here's how I'm fixing it." Instead of scolding you, your boss will likely appreciate your honesty and responsibility. Carnegie even shares stories of people who turned enemies into allies simply by admitting fault up front. When you confess, others have nothing left to attack. In fact, they often rush to defend you. Admitting mistakes makes you human, relatable, and trustworthy. The fourth principle is begin in a friendly way. This sounds simple, yet in practice it changes everything. If you approach someone with hostility, demanding change, or criticizing them. Their natural response is resistance. But if you begin with kindness, with a smile, or with warmth, defenses come down. Carnegie illustrates this with a story about a tax dispute. Instead of confronting the tax official angrily, one man approached with friendliness, even complimenting the official. As a result, the official went out of his way to help him. In your own life, remember that honey catches more flies than vinegar. If you want to influence, always start friendly. The fifth principle is get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. Carnegie calls this the Socratic method. The idea is to begin conversations with points of agreement rather than disagreement. When someone says yes to your opening statements, they feel aligned with you. This momentum makes them more likely to agree with you later. For instance, if you're negotiating a project deadline, start by saying, "We both want this project to succeed, right?" The other person says yes. "And we both want the client to be happy?" Another yes. By the time you propose your solution, they are already in a yes mindset. The sixth principle is let the other person do a great deal of the talking. Most people love to hear themselves speak. If you dominate the conversation, you may feel powerful, but you lose influence. If you let others talk, they feel valued and respected. Carnegie advises us to ask questions, encourage storytelling, and allow others to express themselves fully. When they talk more, they reveal their desires and concerns. That gives you the insight to frame your ideas in terms that appeal to them. Listening is one of the greatest tools of persuasion. The seventh principle is, let the other person feel that the idea is theirs. This principle is brilliant. People are far more committed to ideas they believe they created themselves. If you want someone to support your plan, involve them in shaping it. Ask for their suggestions, listen carefully, and incorporate their input. Even if the idea was yours to begin with, when they feel ownership, they support it wholeheartedly. This works in workplaces, families, and even negotiations. Influence is not about pushing your idea, but guiding others to embrace it as their own. The eighth principle is, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. This is the essence of empathy. Too often, we are so focused on our own side that we never pause to ask how things look from the other person's perspective. Carnegie insists that if you make this effort, you will immediately find better ways to connect. For example, if an employee is underperforming, instead of labeling them lazy, ask what challenges they are facing. Maybe they are overwhelmed or lack resources. When you see their view, you can help rather than judge. The ninth principle is be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. This goes hand in hand with empathy. Even if you disagree, acknowledge their feelings. Say things like, "I understand how you feel. I might feel the same way in your situation." Such words soften opposition. They tell the person you respect their humanity. This creates trust and makes them more willing to hear your side. The 10th principle is appeal to the nobler motives. Carnegie teaches that people want to be seen as fair, honest, and noble. If you appeal to these motives, you inspire better behavior. For instance, instead of saying, "Don't cheat me," say, "I'm sure you're a person who values fairness, and I trust you'll do the right thing." People strive to live up to the image you present of them. By appealing to their higher nature, you call out the best in them. The 11th principle is dramatize your ideas. Dry facts rarely move people, but when you present your ideas vividly, with stories, analogies, or demonstrations, they capture attention. Carnegie shares the story of a salesman who couldn't get attention until he dramatically dumped a pile of dirt on a desk to show how much dust his vacuum cleaner could remove. Suddenly, everyone was listening. In your own life, think about how to make your message more engaging. Use vivid examples, tell stories, paint pictures with words. People remember what they feel, not just what they hear. The 12th and final principle in this section is throw down a challenge. Carnegie notes that one of the most powerful forces in human nature is the desire to excel, to prove oneself. If you want to motivate people, frame tasks as challenges. Appeal to their competitive spirit. For instance, a manager might say, "Let's see if we can break our record this quarter." Suddenly, work becomes a game and people rise to the challenge. When you challenge people positively, they often achieve more than they thought possible. Together, these 12 principles form a masterclass in persuasion. They remind us that influence is not about winning battles, but about winning hearts. It is about avoiding arguments, respecting opinions, admitting faults, beginning kindly, finding agreement, listening, giving credit, empathizing, appealing to noble motives, dramatizing, and challenging. Apply these consistently, and people will not only listen to you, they will follow you willingly. One of the most powerful lessons from this book is the idea of seeing things from the other person's perspective. Carnegie emphasized that people are not naturally interested in you, your story, or your achievements. What truly captivates them is how much you make them feel important. Think about it. When was the last time you had a conversation with someone who genuinely wanted to hear about your life, your struggles, your passions? Didn't it feel refreshing? That's because being truly listened to is one of the rarest experiences in today's world. Carnegie encourages us to develop the habit of listening more than we speak. He believed that being a good listener is not about staying silent, but about being fully present, making the other person feel valued, and showing curiosity about their world. It's about asking genuine questions and encouraging them to talk about themselves. The truth is, everyone has a story they want to share. And when you give them the chance, they not only open up, but also begin to associate positive feelings with you. You become memorable not because of what you said, but because of how you made them feel. Think about successful leaders, managers, or even your favorite teachers. Chances are they didn't just lecture, they listened. They remembered details about people's lives, asked about their families, and showed a real interest in the small things. These are not superficial tactics. They're expressions of genuine empathy. And empathy is magnetic. Another powerful principle Carnegie lays out is the importance of never criticizing, condemning, or complaining. It's natural to think that pointing out someone's mistakes will make them correct themselves, but in reality, criticism often breeds resentment. No one likes to feel attacked. Instead of criticism, Carnegie advises offering honest appreciation and highlighting the positive qualities of others. This doesn't mean ignoring problems, but approaching them in a way that saves the other person's dignity and inspires them to improve. Imagine you're a manager at work. An employee makes a mistake. You could yell, criticize, and crush their confidence, or you could guide them by first appreciating their effort and then constructively suggesting how they can do better. Which approach do you think will earn respect and loyalty? The second one, without a doubt. This simple shift in communication can transform relationships in workplaces, families, and even friendships. Carnegie also emphasized the incredible power of remembering people's names. He famously said, "A person's name is to that person the sweetest sound in any language." Think about it. When someone remembers your name, it feels like they value you as a unique individual. But when they forget or get it wrong, it creates distance. Remembering names is a small habit with massive impact. Leaders, speakers, and influencers throughout history have used this principle to connect deeply with people. Carnegie shared stories of influential figures who had the habit of carefully remembering the names of everyone they met, from employees to waiters, because it made each person feel seen. Another core idea is that you can win more people to your side by avoiding arguments. Most people believe that the way to win influence is by proving others wrong, but Carnegie argued that the best way to win an argument is to avoid it in the first place. Arguments usually create winners and losers, but in relationships, when someone loses, both parties lose. Instead of pushing your opinion forcefully, he suggested showing respect for the other person's viewpoint and gently leading them toward agreement. This doesn't mean giving up your principles, but presenting them in a way that doesn't trigger defensiveness. The human ego is delicate, and when attacked it hardens, but when respected it opens up. Another fascinating principle Carnegie highlighted is giving people a fine reputation to live up to. What does this mean? If you treat someone as competent, intelligent, and capable, they are more likely to act that way. It's the psychology of expectations. Parents use this with children. Teachers use it with students. Great leaders use it with their teams. If you tell someone they are lazy or incapable, they may internalize it. But if you tell them you believe they are hardworking, reliable, and trustworthy, they will often rise to meet that standard. Carnegie's genius lies in showing us that influence is not manipulation. It's about bringing out the best in others by showing faith in them. Imagine what would happen if, instead of pointing out flaws, you told someone, "I know you're someone who can handle this challenge." The simple act of believing in others gives them strength. Carnegie also discussed the subtle art of letting the other person feel that an idea is theirs. This principle is rooted in human psychology. People are more committed to ideas they feel ownership over. If you push your solution onto others, they may resist it. But if you guide them in a way where they discover the solution themselves, they'll not only embrace it, but defend it. Think about a workplace scenario. You want your team to adopt a new system. Instead of imposing it, You could ask them questions that lead them to realize the benefits themselves. When they say, "This system could actually make our work faster," they feel the idea is theirs, and their commitment increases tenfold. This principle can be applied in negotiations, leadership, parenting, and even everyday conversations. Another deeply valuable lesson Carnegie shares is the importance of admitting when you are wrong, and admitting it quickly. Many people think admitting mistakes makes them weak, but it actually makes them strong and trustworthy. When you acknowledge your faults openly, people respect your honesty. They see you as authentic, humble, and courageous. In contrast, people who refuse to admit mistakes come across as arrogant or dishonest. Think of the leaders you admire the most. Chances are they're not perfect, but they're honest about their imperfections. They own up to mistakes and take responsibility. That quality builds loyalty and trust faster than pretending to be flawless. Carnegie's principles extend even to the way we inspire change in others. He emphasizes beginning with praise and honest appreciation before pointing out areas of improvement. When you highlight the good first, people are more receptive to constructive feedback. This is because their defenses are lowered. They don't feel attacked. They feel recognized and encouraged. For example, a parent might say, "I'm proud of how hard you worked on this project, and I know you're capable of even greater things if you pay attention to this detail." That message motivates rather than discourages. The same principle applies in workplaces, relationships, and even friendships. Carnegie's wisdom is timeless because it aligns with human nature. People want to feel valued, respected, and capable. When you make others feel this way, they naturally gravitate toward you. Influence is not about control or dominance, it's about creating positive experiences for others. This is why his book continues to be a guide for leaders, entrepreneurs, educators, and anyone seeking stronger relationships. Imagine how different your life could be if you consistently practice these principles. Instead of trying to impress others with your achievements, you made them feel important. Instead of criticizing, you encouraged. Instead of arguing, you respected their viewpoint. Instead of forcing your ideas, you inspired ownership. These shifts, though simple, could completely change the quality of your relationships and the level of influence you hold. Carnegie believed that the ability to deal with people is as important as technical skill in achieving success. No matter how talented you are, if you can't work with others, your progress will be limited. But if you master the art of winning friends and influencing people, you open the door to limitless opportunities. The truth is, success is not just about what you know or what you do. It's about how you make others feel. People will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that's the essence of Carnegie's timeless wisdom. Carnegie also understood that human beings crave a sense of significance. He pointed out that even the humblest worker, the most ordinary individual, has a deep hunger to feel important. The way you treat them can either satisfy that hunger or deepen their sense of neglect. He told the story of Charles Schwab, the famous steel magnate who once said that he considered his greatest asset not his knowledge of steel, not his ability to make money, but his ability to inspire enthusiasm in people. He would walk through his plants, see a worker doing well, and say something as simple as, "That's great work," or "You're really improving here." That little comment would light up the worker's face and often inspire better results than any reprimand or criticism could have achieved. Schwab himself once admitted that he believed in praising lavishly and criticizing sparingly, because praise makes people want to live up to the reputation you're giving them. Carnegie explained that this was one of the most powerful techniques of influence. If you want someone to improve, instead of condemning what they are doing wrong, find even a small thing they're doing right and praise it sincerely. This creates the desire in them to improve further, to win more of that recognition. It transforms criticism into motivation. A key principle Carnegie highlighted was this: give honest and sincere appreciation. Not flattery, not empty compliments, but real recognition of the value someone brings. People can detect insincerity quickly, and nothing destroys trust faster. But when your appreciation is genuine, it has the power to change relationships, build loyalty, and even heal conflicts. Imagine a leader who thanks their team for working late into the night to finish a project. If the leader does this genuinely, not as a formality but from the heart, that team feels respected, seen, and valued. They are far more likely to put in extra effort the next time because they feel appreciated. Carnegie then turned to another profound insight. If you want people to like you, become genuinely interested in them. Too often, he said, we enter conversations with the focus on ourselves, our stories, our opinions. But the truth is that everyone loves talking about themselves. People are not as interested in you as they are in themselves. If you show genuine curiosity about their experiences, their ideas, their lives, they will naturally feel drawn to you. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to do this is to ask questions that encourage people to talk. Instead of making everything about yourself, you might say, "How did you get into that line of work?" Or, "That sounds fascinating. What was the most challenging part?" This doesn't just make conversations flow more smoothly, it makes people feel valued. Carnegie shared the story of Theodore Roosevelt, who was known for his charisma and the way people admired him. Roosevelt had an incredible habit. Whenever someone was scheduled to meet him, he would spend time the night before reading about something that person cared about, whether it was a hobby, a business, or an interest. When they met, Roosevelt would bring up that subject, and instantly the person felt a strong connection, thinking, "This man understands me." That simple gesture of genuine interest created bonds and goodwill that lasted. Another principle Carnegie taught was to remember and use a person's name. He said, "A person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language." Think about it. When someone remembers your name and uses it in conversation, doesn't it make you feel recognized and important? Names are tied to identity, and when you remember them, you're essentially showing that you respect the person enough to acknowledge who they are. Carnegie told the story of Jim Farley, a politician who was able to remember tens of thousands of names because he practiced so diligently. He believed that remembering names was one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to win people over. It's not about having a perfect memory. It's about caring enough to make the effort. He reminded readers that when you forget a person's name, it can make them feel insignificant. But when you remember it, it makes them feel valued. Carnegie didn't stop there. He taught that if you want to be interesting, be interested. He argued that the best conversationalists are not those who talk the most, but those who listen the most. By letting others speak, by encouraging them to share their thoughts, you create the impression that you're a great conversationalist, even if you've hardly spoken at all. Listening is not passive, it's active. It involves nodding, asking questions, showing empathy, and truly paying attention. People can sense when you're just waiting for your turn to speak, and they can also sense when you're really listening. The latter builds trust and rapport like nothing else. Another key idea Carnegie shared was to smile. He believed that a smile is a powerful form of communication that requires no words but conveys warmth, openness, and goodwill. A genuine smile can melt tension, open doors, and make others feel comfortable around you. He often told his students to smile when meeting someone new during conversations, or even while talking on the phone, because people can hear a smile in your tone. Smiling shows that you're happy to see someone, happy to interact, and it makes the other person feel uplifted. Carnegie's wisdom around these principles can be summed up this way. People want to feel important, to feel appreciated, to feel recognized. If you can give that to them sincerely, you will win their friendship and influence their behavior without force. It is not manipulation, it's empathy. It's understanding the human heart and responding with kindness. Moving further, Carnegie emphasized avoiding arguments. He explained that arguments, even when won, usually lead to resentment rather than true persuasion. He famously said that the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. When you argue, both sides become defensive, both want to win, and neither truly listens. Even if you prove someone wrong logically, they often walk away feeling hurt, humiliated, or angry. Instead, Carnegie recommended finding common ground, agreeing where possible, and steering conversations toward cooperation rather than confrontation. He suggested phrases like, "I might be wrong, let's examine the facts together," or, "I understand your point. Here's another way of looking at it." These soften the tone and invite collaboration rather than conflict. Carnegie illustrated this point with stories of diplomats and business leaders who avoided clashes by showing respect to the other person's opinion and never directly saying, "You're wrong." Instead, they gently guided conversations so the other person could see a new perspective without feeling attacked. This principle is vital not only in friendships but also in business, politics, and family life. Think about it. How many times have you argued with someone, won the argument, but lost the relationship? Carnegie's advice teaches us that winning people over is more important than winning debates. He also gave practical techniques for persuasion. For example, he recommended letting the other person talk more. When you're trying to convince someone instead of overwhelming them with your reasoning, let them voice their own thoughts, concerns, and objections. By listening and acknowledging their perspective, you build trust and they're more open to your ideas. Another method is to let people feel that the idea is theirs. Instead of pushing your idea forcefully, present it in a way that they come to the conclusion themselves, or at least feel that they contributed. People are much more committed to ideas they believe are their own. Carnegie's principles are all about respect and psychology. He didn't just want to give tricks. He wanted people to genuinely transform their approach to relationships. His message was clear. If you treat people with dignity, appreciation, and sincere interest, they will respond with loyalty, trust, and cooperation.